destroys these radioactive products, so that when it's all done, there's very, very little radioactivity left. So if you got a hydrogen bomb following a regular uranium bomb or plutonium bomb, when that goes off, it's much higher, much more destructive. It'll literally destroy those components that have radioactivity, so that there is very, very little left. But still, there was 55 times background level of radiation, and over 1,000 of the first responders have already died of cancers, rare cancers. Some of them got 2, 3 cancers. So that's what's going down. Jeff Prager is a guy, if you want to find out about nukes, and I'm going to be studying him. I've looked at him, and I really, really admire what he's done. Jeff Prager, P-R-A-G-E-R. So we're giving an awful lot of information for your listeners that may not be aware of even the Vancouver hearing. So anyway, our indictments, they're not indictments, they're submittals for indictments. The judges are going to finally decide who gets indicted. I'm sure that Bush and Cheney and those top people in there, Meyer, generals, they're all going to be indicted by certain people, and I'm going to be trying to get the scientists like Dave Thomas, Tomasetti. There's a whole bunch of them. You'll see when you see my pictures when we get started into my presentation. So we're kind of just filling everybody in on the background here, and then filling them in on a lot of new stuff that they can check out.
Now, I've got links on the site to freeamerican.com/Vancouver1 PDF, and actually you can make them all capitals on Vancouver. And got a nice little picture of Chuck sitting there. Chuck is a retired physics instructor. And now, on this first page here, it says, vector forces, physics, and mathematics provide direct proof for the impossible collapses of WTC Twin Towers on 9/11. And you've got charts here that shows the thickness of the steel columns, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 6 inch. You've got and these are all built in cubes. And well, you also have 9/11 was an inside job with the U.S. flag and the Israeli flag. They are working together. Yes, they are, folks, and they're covering up because they know if this truth got out here, and everybody in America realized this, and we actually took these people to trial, took them to trial. Yeah, and then the mainstream media will shut it down, so you won't even know what's going on. That's the number one problem with this country, above every single thing in this country, is the media is owned and controlled by the Zionists that support Israel, and until you get that done, there's nothing going to happen to straighten this country out. So that's the first thing people need to work on, getting the media back and informing people. There's no intelligent decisions can be made unless you get the truth. Now, freedom of the press. There is no freedom of the press. Folks, none. When I started the Free American, it was because the press was trying to justify the killing of 17 little children and their families.
Justifying, huh?
Justify. Well, they were, you know, hey, the government was putting out press releases that says, oh, see, they made us kill them all. They resisted by force of arms. That was a psychological operation on the American people, to say. And one of the reasons I believe this is happening is that the Davidians were actually, they were selling firearms. B, they had a self-sufficient family farm. They were stepping outside the mainstream, and they were making it work.
All right, Clay. I'd like to make some suggestions to your audience. All of you people in the audience out there, if you want to help get this country straightened out, if you subscribe to a mainstream media newspaper, cancel it. cancel it. You can get everything you want from the underground media like you're getting right now. Also, your TV.
Shoot it. Clean your weapon, take your weapon out, clean
rid
it,
of it.
shoot
All right,
it.
don't watch the stupid news. The news is all lies, and especially foreign news. It's all lies, 100%. It's all stage play. And if you listen to it and believe that crap, you're just falling right into it. That's basically it. If you want to straighten this country out, you got to straighten out the media. And the underground media is only about maybe 10% of all, or less, of all the media. Every channel that you can think of on TV is run by and controlled by Zionist Jews that all support Israel. All of them. NBC, CBS, ABC. And not only that, they've even contaminated all these science programs. PBS, Nova, National Geographic, Discovery, all of that stuff, the History Channel. All of those presented false, completely false, fraudulent programs on 9/11. And that's what really turned me off, because I was a science follower. Now, most of their science videos are okay. But when it comes to 9/11, they were able to put that in there because most people give credibility to that. And so, therefore, you got an overlap that, yeah, well, it must be true. It's on Nova. It's on Discovery. It's on the History Channel. It must be true. But they don't understand that that's all controlled by the Zionists, the same ones that control all the media, the magazines, publishing houses, and also the scientific journals. So if you're trying to do a paper against Israel, against the Mossad, and trying to show the proof of explosives, you're not going to get it into a mainstream journal, because when you submit your paper, you're going to have a Zionist reviewing it. A Zionist will review it, just like a Zionist reviewed Bazan's paper, and they got that support for the crushdown collapse, gravity collapse, which is total bullshit. Now, if I get into my presentation, you'll understand why in great detail with the physics, the chemistry, and the math at the super, something like 6th grade level, so everybody would be able to understand this. And maybe we can start on this.
Go ahead, go right ahead here. I've got right now. I'm just sitting on your page. You can tell me when to change pages here. But
okay.
I'm on your page. It says intellectual U.S. government Zionism supporting prostitutes, and you've got Bush, Obama, Rumsfeld, Cheney, and a few more there.
All right, Clay. Everybody, if you have not clicked on the link on Clay's main page, which is the Vancouver hearings of Part 1. There's 43 slides. There's two of them. You need to do number 1, and the very first one is kind of a blue slide. And I'm going to do just like I'm doing a presentation. And Clay, you can certainly come in and comment on top of whatever I'm going to do. Let's go to the first slide, because every slide is important. It says here, like you said, vector forces. Most of you don't know what vector forces are. I'm going to explain that. And by the time we're done, you're going to totally understand what vector forces are, because that is what will help you understand why it's impossible for them towers to collapse with a gravity. All right, so we got vector forces physics, and the math of vector forces provide direct proof, not indirect, but direct proof for the impossible collapses of the World Trade Center Twin Towers on 9/11. Now, if you go down to the bottom, and people have been yelling and screaming, "You've got no evidence. The government's got all this. Where's your evidence? You got any quantity? Tell us some numbers. What's going on?" Well, I got the numbers. I got the numbers right here. And anything that's quantitative is about numbers, exact numbers. So this is not an estimate. It's not qualitative. Qualitative is what the government's got, where they can sit there and raise their arms and jump up and down. It was big. It was big. It weighed a lot. And they had to crush it. It weighed 70,000 tons. Nothing could withstand that. But when you understand that the bottom part is something like, actually about 450,000 tons, or more than that, that's what it had to crush. It was actually about 10,000 tons trying to crush 490,000 tons. So, do you think 10,000 tons could crush 490,000 tons of steel? The top section, 14 floors, falling down to somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000 tons. The whole tower was 500,000 tons. subtract 10,000 out, you got 490,000 tons. So what you got is a 1.4%, or approximately 2%, crushing 98%. So does that make any sense?
You know, what doesn't really make sense to me is, why did they do it? If they were really trying to damage America, seems like they would have just undermined one corner of it so it would fall over long ways. If both buildings fell over long ways, gee, how much damage would that do? How many people would that have killed? Oh, but
they could have done that if they wanted to.
They didn't want
but they didn't want to destroy. See, New York City, that's your #1 Jew city. They don't want to destroy their own city. They just wanted that property there. That was designed there. And that's another clue that people should understand. You want minimal damage so you can rebuild. You don't want to destroy all these other people's banks, and they might get pissed off and join in the truth movement and say, "Damn, you destroyed all our buildings." So they're going to alienate all those people that own all them buildings, unless they were Zionists too. I don't know. So I mean, that tells you something else. How does a building fall right through itself all the way to the ground in its own footprint? Very little destruction on a relative basis. With the materials going out.
Under your theory, under your theory here that these were mini nukes and the explosive were printed in there. Maybe, I think you maybe need to really go. Go on, guys. What about the cars that were burnt to a crisp, or at least the top part of the cars that were burnt to a crisp? That I know Wood talks about those a lot. But what about those? What could have created that effect?
Well, it's pretty simple actually. If you watch just before the towers go down, what you will see is there's a line that goes around right the part where they're trying to cut. What they're doing is they're cutting that with thermite incendiaries, and at the very last point where they're going to actually let it go down, they use the cutter charges and the explosives, and then they try to make the top look like it's falling because they've severed the core columns, and you got tons and tons and tons of thermite there. It's ongoing. And if you look very, very closely at the videos, the close-ups, what you will see is all this thermite, red-hot particles. They're particles, they're being shot out as the explosives go out. So within the dust clouds that are going out, they're literally filled with thermite, which is actually reacting. And because they exploded it all at one time, all of the thermite did not get burned up. So they interrupted a reaction that was going on, a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction. Nothing to do with directed energy weapons from electromagnetic effects that Judy's talking about. It's just silly. When the evidence is right there in front of your face, you don't have to think of some far out theory that makes no sense.
All right, we need to move along here on your. We've got a lot of our people are listening as they're listening to this, are looking at this PDF. And you talked about the. We've got a few pictures up here, but we've got World Trade Center 6. What was that? What is WTC 6? That sounds like something new to me. What's that? Clay,
let me go through this thing one at a time here.
All right. Let's move it along. We've only got 15 minutes left. We've only got 15 minutes. We're going to do this show, another extenuation of this show on our second half tomorrow, but we need to move along. You got 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me advance this thing. All right. All right. Go to the second slide. The second slide is extremely important right here to understand. I'll go into World Trade Center 6. Let me get this first of all. You see this thickness of steel?
Yes, thickness of steel.
The second slide. All right. This is really a critical. I spent a couple hours setting this up just for this show. All right. You see the plastic model of the World Trade Center over on the right?
Yes.
You see the cubes?
Yes.
All right. You look at the bottom part down there. You see where it says 6 basement floors?
Yes.
That's the 2 sections down there. And then you've got 7 cubes. Each one of those cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has 16 floors. When you multiply 6 times 16, you get 96. And the top section cube has 14 floors. That top section is what's falling down and crushing the 96 floors plus the 6 basement floors. Now what you need to understand is the thickness of the steel, the weight, the heaviness, the mass of it. Alright, see the very top section in red? This thickness of steel is only a 1/4 inch. Now look over on the left, the orange. You see 1/4 inch? You see that little single stick with the red ball on top and bottom? That represents the thickness of that steel in that section. That's a 1/4 inch. The next cube down is a 1/2 inch. So it's twice that 1/4 inch. The next section, cube 5, is an inch. It's 4 times as thick, massive, and heavy as the part that's falling. Cube 4 is 2 inches. It's 8 times heavier and thicker. Cube 3, that's 3 inches. That's 12 times thicker and heavier and massive than the part that's falling. Cube 2 is 4 inches. That's 16 times more thick steel. Cube 1 is 5 inches. That's 20 times thicker than the top part that's falling. And then finally, the 6 inches, it's not 16 floors, it's only 6 floors, so it's equivalent to 9 thicknesses. So the total, if you add up all of the steel below the top two red balls, you get 71 parts, and all of them together, including the top, is 72. So what you got is 1/72 of the total column steel crushing 71/72. That's the same as 1.4% of the column steel crushing 98.6% of the column steel, which is totally stupid. But the government presents you a theory that says that the thickness of the entire tower was the same, like about 3/4 of an inch to maybe 1.25 inches. And it seems like I'm the only one that looked this up. I looked this up the first night of my research some 3.5 years ago. And I've been working on this ever since. This is my thesis right here. It's impossible. And all the government calculations are based on uniform thickness, where the top is as thick as the basement, which is a total bullshit lie. Nobody builds a 1/4 mile high building with equal thickness. It's got to be thick and heavy at the bottom, and petering off to very, very, very thin at the top.
All right, we need to keep going here. We've got to kind of skim over this. You've also the next couple of pages are really great artwork about the U.S. and Israel, and I've had a hard time trying to decipher, Chuck, in your research. Does the United States control Israel? Does Israel control the United States, or is England sitting back there and the Rothschilds sitting back there with in the empire on which the sun never sets, pulling the strings on both of us?
Well, what it is the Zionists who are in this country by the millions. I guess there's a couple million of them, and then all the Christians, Zionists that support them. Those are the people that got the money. They own everything. And the same way in England or Australia, all these countries that are controlled, their medias are all controlled. If they control the media, they control what the people know about the country.
They control what they think.
Israel.
They don't call television programming.
Israel controls indirectly because of the Zionist influence in these countries who support Israel, and that's the way I see it. Right?
Yes, I agree with that, and the real question in my mind is you've got the evidence here. Somebody on the chat room said 70% of the country knows it was an inside job, but as Bush was walking out after he gave us the whole war on terror, which, by the way, folks, is a war against anyone, anywhere in the world that doesn't want to go along with one world banking.
Yeah, if they don't want to be a democracy, they got to be terrorists.
That's right, and that's why they're trying to make Christians, Christian identity, militia, anybody that ain't bi or gay, has got to be an enemy, and that's what they're doing. They're really doing that.
Clay, what time is our, we started at 10 o'clock my time. It's almost 11. I thought we were going to do an hour and a half. So we do 1 hour?
We got 1 hour. We got 10 more minutes here. And
okay.
With this segment, we're concentrating. We painted the picture of the U.S. and Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld being a part of this, along with the Jewish Zionists that owned Larry Silverstein, that owned it, that raked in a few billion. And
yeah, they own all the scientists too. You'll find out they're Christian Zionists or Zionists that are just paid off. You see this picture on terrorism with all these presidents. You see all these scientists down at the bottom here. This is what I'm going after. You've got Eager, who did a video. You got Dave Thomas. You've got Shyam Sunder. You got Hamburger, Silverstein, Levy, and there's Bazant way down at the bottom. Those are the people I'm going after. And this picture itself is self-explanatory. Over on the left, you got some other people. You got the guy that cleaned up the controlled demolitions, and you got the two big debunkers of people that debate, but they're not scientists. These guys won't debate a scientist. They'll debate a non-scientist, and then they can flummox them, and they can't answer all the questions. But you see at the bottom, intellectual scientific publishing, Zionism supporting prostitutes, and at the top, intellectual USA government, Zionist supporting prostitutes. And that's what it's all about, deceiving rogue Zionist-controlled USA government personnel, still deceiving, covering up 9/11.
Why can't people let me just ask you a quick question here, Chuck. Why can't people understand that these people are right out in front of it? I said 9/11, they came out of hiding. They really came out of hiding. They put it right on the front line. The evidence is so overwhelming to point the finger at Israel and the Jews being behind us, that if you don't understand, if you're denying that, then you've got to be working for them. You've got to be benefiting somehow from this communist system that they've set up.
Well, I know a lot of people that I talk to them, and they say, hey, kill every damn Arab over there. Yeah, go after Iran. They're brainwashed. They don't want to hear nothing about 9/11. They're so totally brainwashed by the media, you cannot even make a dent in their belief system.
Well, they're doing to Ahmadinejad what they did to Hitler, and come on, folks, the United States, this is my opinion right here, but it's based on historical fact. The United States was one of 3 communist countries to go after the independent Republic of Germany. Hitler was elected by a majority of the people. Austria was adopted Hitler and elected a Hitler to rule over them. He wasn't a bad guy. It's because of the Jews owned the press that they made him a bad guy, and Hitler was being played by them because you could immigrate from Jew. You didn't have to go into those labor camps. If you had money, you could go to Israel and establish a safe country for the Zionists.
Yeah. Hitler had that all arranged. He's got a coin with Nazi symbol on one side and a Jewish star on the other, commemorating Hitler's willingness to let at one point to let his German Jews go ahead and migrate, but I think a lot of them didn't want to, so they got stuck behind, and I guess that was his alternative. If they didn't want to leave, he'll leave another way.
The point is they will sacrifice their own people because they're not really Jews. The Bible tells us to beware of the Jews that say they're Jews and are not.
They're converted Northern European, what do they call it, Ashkenazi
yes.
Jews.
Ashkenazi Jews from the country of Khazaria.
That's interesting how Ashkenazi, how they get the Nazi in that name, and then Hitler had the Nazi Party.
Well, they infiltrated Hitler too. The bankers were financing Hitler. They were working with him on the inside. A lot of people, a lot of Hitler's people were Jewish. You know, I mean, basically, it ain't no different today. I mean, today they're trying to outline to pull us out of the lineup, point the finger at us, patriots, as being the Jews of today. They went around the patriots up.
All of our wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, all these wars are promoted by the mainstream media, which has been owned by the Jews who knows, since the turn of the century or before. They went after premeditated, how we're going to take over this country. Let's first of all buy up all the media. They got it all. I've seen it year by year as one media organization after another falls and is bought up by them. So they got everything they want now.
Chuck, what's going to happen from these Vancouver hearings? Are we going to see any of these perps actually arrested, actually put in jail?
Buddy, it's probably not going to happen. If they go to other countries that support this, they will be arrested. Now, here's one thing I need to bring up. They have already been convicted at the Kuala Lumpur hearings. This already went down at the Kuala Lumpur hearings. Bush, Cheney, and the British leader and some others already were convicted of war crimes against peace by the same main judge that's doing our hearings in Vancouver. And I understand that Bush and Cheney are avoiding certain countries because they got warrants out for them. If they enter those countries, they'll be arrested for war crimes. So this is all on the internet. You have to look it up, check it out. They've already been convicted. The same thing is going to happen with the same individuals. But I'm going after the scientists, and other people are going after maybe the military leaders, the Jewish generals, the Zionist generals, and it's up to the judges to actually do the indictment. You have to get these things all notarized, get the background. As a matter of fact, when I finish mine, I'll send you a copy of what I'm going to submit so you can see it. And like I say, all the stuff from Vancouver hearings, if you just put the Vancouver hearings into your search engine, you'll start to see what's going on there. But there has been literally no media coverage whatsoever in the United States on it. And who knows when there is. You got insight to it through me. American Free Press now knows about it. I don't know if they're going to publish anything. Looks like we're getting close to our time. Now we're going to be on again tomorrow, everybody. So tune in to us again, and we'll continue. And if we have to, I guess Clay will give me another show down the road here, so that I can really present all of this information. I'm sure if you guys really want this information, let Clay know, and we'll be coming back at you.
We'll do that, and go to freeamerican.com. Let anybody on your list know about freeamerican.com. You know, I got this one Jew boy out here, freedom fighter. Supposedly, he's got the Free American Radio. He went out and got that website to put a picture of me on there, telling everybody I'm a Nazi. You know, and my grandfather might have been. You know, he died at Auschwitz. And so I'm a little sensitive about that. He got drunk and fell off the guard tower. And he said, this freedom fighter who's chicken shit, who doesn't put his real name up there, says, I challenge you to a bait, you ignorant Nazi piece of shit. Your friend Mike Harris is also a lying sack of shit, claiming JT was not a Nazi. I've gone on the record openly to call him a liar. This is Jim Stotch. And by the way, you got my phone number, Jim, so all you got to do is call me up, and I'll book a show and put you on if you'll have me on yours too, you cowardly Jews out there. All right. God bless America. And folks, if you really need to realize, this is a war, and war's against you.
Elected politicians.
Call recording has been completed.
At truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of...
All right, we're going to take that out. And are you still with me, Chuck?
We're done, I guess, for today. We're going to continue where we left off tomorrow.
Well, we'll do that, but just hang on a second. And I will keep you on here for just a second. And I think you were in the chat room, too. Go to freeamerican.com, folks. Get